for giving me to introduce the speaker of this last but not least session of this online 1 week FDP, Signal, Image and Video Processing, a Practical Approach 2020. Thank you, sir. Topic of this session is video processing, video compression and standards, and the speaker of this session is Dr. Mukul Sutavne, sir. It is my great pleasure and honor, sir, to introduce Dr. Mukul Sutavne. Dr. Mukul Sutavne is a professor in Electronics and Telecommunication Department of Engineering, COEP, Pune. His area of work and interest in teaching and research are statistical and adaptive signal processing, wireless communication and networks, and statistical modeling of data. With 30 years of experience in academics, research and industry, Professor Sutavne is currently Deputy Director at COEP and has handled various responsibilities such as Dean Academics, Dean International Relations, Head of Department, etc. at COEP. He has executed many innovative academic experiments in curriculum design and delivery for the students and faculty of his institute and other institutes mentored by him. In the capacity of Principal Investigator of the Center of Excellence in Signal and Image Processing, a World Bank funded project by MHRD undertaking, Professor Sutavne has been associated with the development and conversion of prototypes from mere proof of concept to transferable technologies. It is so impossible to mention his every single accomplishment because they are a lot. His achievements have been recognized by his handsome number of contributed and cited publications to his credit, with being a resource person in many conferences, workshops, symposia, etc. and with recipient of IET National Award for Excellence in Telecom Education. However, today, we are here to recognize Dr. Sutavne sir outstanding talents as a professor and mentor. Sir, it is such an honor for us to have you today between us. Thank you so much for coming and bestowing us with your own presence. Please welcome sir and thank you. With this, I request Professor Sutavne sir to start his session. Please, sir.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Anil, my slides are shared with all of us?
Yeah.
Visible, no?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So, good afternoon all.
Your video is not available.
Video, turn it on after some time.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, no problem.
Video is not important. Face is not important.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. So at the outset,
it's a video compression, so video at the start video is required.
Okay. I am not finding its control anyway, so I'll make it. After this presentation,
Okay.
So to begin with, let me thank all the organizers, Professor Sapkar, Dr. Anil, then Shipra Madam, Amrita, Mahesh, all the organizing team working behind the scene and for making this 5 days FDP possible and having me connected with a wonderful learned audience and giving me opportunity to share my contents on a topic which is really very interesting topic, video compression, coding and techniques and standards. Okay. So I prepared guys some 80 slide presentation for this session. But don't go with the numbers. The presentation will be really interesting, and then it is a conceptual, informative session for us to describe it, right? So let's go with it. I'm not in a worry to finish all my 80 slides in 90 minutes, not at all. But then, if the time permits, then let me see how much I can cover, how much extent I can cover in this 1.5 hours given to me. Hopefully, I assume that the connection helps me in getting my voice and slide together, synchronized. Is it?
Yeah, it's.
Are we on the second slide? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, though the agenda of the slide looks like only 3 points: preamble, then video compression technique, algorithms, and video coding and streaming standards. It's only 3. But then, as I said, I have exhaustively collected, compiled, and collated rather all the slides together so that we can have a comprehensive review of this video compression techniques and standards that I've done. And the topic which is delegated to me by Professor Sapkar on this video compression and techniques and standards is, I think it's very relevant and rather deeply relevant to this session also. Okay, that this mode of session delivery is virtual online video conferencing, audio video conferencing mode, is it not? And we assume that all of you are connected to a series or a chain of wired and wireless channels. No wired or wireless channel can have infinite data handling capability, data handling capacity. Channels lead us to that. And then the channel capacities are limited. It is our job as an end user to see to it that we use the bandwidth very, very effectively, the data very, very effectively. Okay. And therefore, if this is the fact, then it is probably the facility in the Cisco WebEx platform that all the participants are muted, all their cameras are shut off. I also have put off my camera, and then only my voice is there.
Hello?
I'm literally streaming my voice. Yes? Yes, ma'am, any issue?
Sir, please. No.
No, please continue, sir. Please continue.
Please continue.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. So I think I was just proving the relevance of my today's session, the scenario in which we are delivering the session, and I say audio video conferencing. So I'm really streaming my voice plus text on the slide plus my video. I have stopped, but video also, all this multimedia data I'm streaming, and then to conserve the bandwidth, to use the bandwidth of the channel very, very effectively, I have to see to it that all my data which I'm going to stream gets compressed. Okay, so I think the topic is really relevant to this today's theme of the session, and therefore we'll go ahead with it. I said that slide presentation is around 80 slides, but don't worry about it. Guys, when I started compiling my presentation, reorganizing my slides for the presentation, then I was just thinking that where did I really in my life came across this word video, the term video. Okay, and believe me that my memory dated me back to my childhood. Wherein I still recall that I went to one movie in my childhood with my some elder cousin brother, and he literally showed me the projector room in which the films were projected. There was the light and that all the arrangement was there on the screen. He also showed me a small film, celluloid film, on which all the video content was probably blown, and then the soundtracks on the boundaries on the both the ends of that film. Okay, but he never mentioned to me the word video. He never mentioned. Then I was fond of watching movies, still I am, and then I'm habituated, addicted to watching movies, etc. But then days were not far off. When I entered my engineering education in mid-80s, then I had a wonderful course on television engineering in my final year. Okay, and then none other good textbooks than by Dhake, Arvind Dhake, and then Gulati, all those good textbooks for me. I liked that course very much. And then I came to know that, oh, television is all about transmitting audio and video signal together. It's a combined or joint transmission reception of audio video signals together. And first time probably I came across the word composite video signal. Prior to that, in my school physics, I had something like consistence of vision, illusion of continuity, all those sorts of terms I was aware of. But then when I learned an official course in my BE final year on television engineering, I first came across a term known as composite video signal. Right, and then in the meantime, in mid-70s, television has entered India as a nation. We had black and white television transmission first. Then in mid-80s, after Asiad Games, we had color television, which was launched in India. Okay, that all was going on. In mid-80s, I was also in my BE final year and learning a course on television engineering. Okay, and then I literally and officially and formally learned the term known as composite video signal. Believe me. Okay, and then I came to know that the definition of video, it's a very structured flow of pictures, structured, organized flow of pictures or frames coming to me, coming to my vision system, coming to my eyes in a time-ordered manner. That definition was so marvelous, so wonderful that I always enjoyed and appreciated it. So video happens to be a sequential, very time-ordered sequential flow of pictures coming to my vision, coming to my eyes. Video is all for my eyes, is it not? Human vision system that it came to. And every picture, television engineering course taught me that every picture is comprising of 625 scanning lines. Okay, here comes the standard. Why 625? Probably the standard developers, international standard developers, must have studied some biology of human vision system, and they said that in one picture, in one frame of the video, there should be 625 lines of scanning. And literally, as human eyes read a page of the book, literally, when as human being reads the page of the book from left to right, from top to bottom, human eyes similarly scan line by line every picture in the video from left to right and from top to bottom. That is the way we do. Similarly, camera happens to an instrument or sensing device which is going to capture the video, capture the picture, capture the frame. Is it not? The way human eyes read the image, read the picture, read the frame in the video, on the similar lines, camera as a sensing device also scans, also reads the image. Okay, left to right and top to bottom. How many lines it reads? 625 lines in one frame or one picture. Believe me that in video, every component, constituent picture or frame is termed as picture or frame. It is not image. In image compression, we have image, right? Photograph. Whereas in video compression, we use the terminology of picture or frame, which is a constituent image of a video. That's the way. Okay. Every such picture or image would comprise of 625 lines of scanning. Okay. That was the thing. This was then known as that it is as if I have resolved a single picture into 625 lines. Could it be higher? Probably it could be higher also. Infinite number of lines I could have, horizontal lines I could have in one picture or one frame. I could literally have it. But then having infinite number of lines, therefore infinite resolution in one picture would have given me infinitely large video signal bandwidth when the camera converts light intensity variations into electrical signal. Okay. Therefore, that physiology, biology of human eyes was studied by the international standard developers, and they fixed one number of lines, 625, enough for the human eye. Okay, we don't require further resolution, further resolving details of the picture. 625 is good enough, good number. Okay, that is a good number. And when I scan the lines left to right and top to bottom, then there was other number which came into picture. How many such frames or pictures should be brought in a particular video in front of my vision, in front of my eyes, so that I get an illusion, virtual illusion of continuity without a jerk. Okay, remember again, video happens to be all sequence of all the pictures, but related to one scene. It's a cricket match going on, some sports or some games is going on, some news reading is going on, some fighting scene is going on. It has a context, it has a semantic relation among the frames, among the pictures. Okay, and when that picture is getting projected in front of my eyes or in front of a camera, then how many such frames should be brought in front of my eye? Okay. The number was again 6, it is 25 frames per second. Believe me, these numbers, 625 lines in one frame, which defines the resolution, resolving details of the picture, and such 25 frames per video per second should be brought in front of my eyes. If I bring below 25, what will happen? What may happen? Let's say the rate was also fixed, for the range rather, 15 frames per second to 30 frames per second. That was the rate, because of which my eyes get the illusion that all the pictures are continuous. There is no jerk. One picture ends, other picture starts. There is no in between a gap. There is no in between black or blank. Okay, so that rate was fixed, 15 frames per second to 30 frames per second. In India, we adopted the standard known as CCIRB standard for black and white television. It was launched in India in 1975, 2273 I think. I don't remember exact year, but 625 lines in one frame as a resolution of the picture, and such 25 frames in 1 second. This was probably the standard part. Okay, it was regulatory kind of stuff which we as a country adopted. Okay, how many lines therefore are scanned in 1 second? 15,625 lines are scanned in 1 second. 625 to 25. That is a number. If I just invert it, I get 64 microseconds. So time required for my eye, for my vision system to scan one line was 64 microseconds. Okay. Similarly, for camera to convert that light intensity variation across one line of the picture into electrical signal, how much is the time given? 64 microseconds. All these are standards. Okay. When the end user observes the played video on the monitor, on the display, what is the aspect ratio? 4:3. We will be never getting a panoramic view of the scene with the square kind of display. So height should be less, width should be more. 4:3 is the height, width to height ratio, and so on. In the scanning is progressive, right? I scan the lines 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, go up to 625th line in particular frame or in particular picture. But they also permitted to go for interlay scanning. What is interlay scanning? I can skip the intermediate lines. I can really go for reading first line, then directly third line, then fifth line, then seventh line, all such odd numbered lines taken together, being termed as odd field, which is getting scanned, 312.5. Similarly, other 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, etc. Other 312.5 lines known as even field. Such field scanning, which is known as interlay scanning, was also permitted in the standards. Okay, what for? When the field is, let's say 25 frames per second are got, how many fields are got in front of my eye? 50 fields, because one frame contains 2 fields, even field, all field. Okay, this 50 fields per second, that rate matches with our power frequency, 50 hertz. It used to set to avoid the flicker. Flicker is all like video jerkiness. Okay, break of continuity between 2 consecutive frames, right? That this is all part of the CCIRB standard. CCIRB standards are developed by Consultative Committee for International Radio, their B part. A part was for radio communication, which was typically audio communication, right? The CCIRB part was for the television. Okay. Meanwhile, I said no, that the same course on television engineering taught me something about color television. Another interesting kind of a chapter I had, and there we learned the standards like PAL, phase alteration, line by line, NTSC, CCAM, etc. Okay, and the transmission and reception of color video signals. Believe me, color is real life. Remember, okay, every picture can be a color picture or can be black and white picture. It means that the objects in the picture will be color, objects in the picture will be black and white, right? Again, believe me, that human vision system is such that it requires or it can resolve finer details of gray, finer details of black and white. Whereas all of us happen to be more or less color blind. Our eyes cannot resolve finer details of color, believe me. Okay, and therefore resolution details of color are not sensible by my eyes, not at all. Okay, my eyes are more sensitive to black and white variations, black and white light intensity variations more than color light variations. Okay, so color resolution is not important, it should be less compared to black and white resolution. Remember that. And therefore, when the color television principles were taught to me and I learned them, then I came to know that, oh, for a color object in a picture to be visible, do I require its illumination? Yes, I require. For color to be visible to human eyes and the camera, I require that there should be illumination component in the color object. It must be. Other way around, can I have a color object which is visualized as a black and white object? Yes, I can have. Color can be absent, luminance is mandatory. Remember therefore, this Y component, no, which I show 1 for illumination and 3 for color. Because net color of any object is equal to additively mixed composition of RGB together. So rawly speaking, I'll have Y and RGB. But again, some intuition, some kind of logic was deployed, and then inventor said it is not at all important to communicate 4 signals for the video. Okay, Y is mandatory, luminance is mandatory, illumination is must, but the color signal should be converted to color difference signals. R minus Y, P minus Y, G minus Y was discarded. Okay, there are certain reasons for it. So therefore now a color video signal means 3 components. One is luminance, must mandatory component, which illuminates the object, without which I cannot be able to see the color, and other 2 are color difference signals, R minus Y, B minus Y. Then based on these 3, we had color domains, Y, I, Q. This Y doesn't stand for yellow, Y is the luminance or luma component, IQ are chroma or chrominance component, the color component. And believe me, these 3 together will be reproducing the whole real life color for the object in a particular picture. Okay, that was taught to me and learned it. UV is some replacement, some conversion of IQ. CPCR, some conversion of UV. Okay, so YIQ is one color domain, YUV is other color domain, YCBCR other color domain, and so on. Right? Standards for color television transmission reception. Therefore, they include what? How many lines in one particular picture? What is the frame rate? How many pictures should be brought in front of my eye, etc., etc. What is scanning frequency? What is aspect ratio? Whether field scanning, interlay scanning is allowed or not? Which is the color domain? YUV, YIQ, YCBCR? All such details it incorporates, and we as a nation adopt to it. Majority of such standards, no, even including video compression standards, they can be sometimes totally international, sometimes global, sometimes local. Okay, some set of standards are applicable to some set of countries, like PAL. PAL is a color television standard for Indian subcontinent. Okay, this part of the country. NTSC is used in Western countries. So there are different names of the standards, different collections of all these specifications, etc. That becomes a bundle as a standard. Okay, but all television story up to the onset of last century, last decade of the gone century, the 91 to 2000, it was all analog. Believe me, it was all analog, right? In between somewhere 1988, 1989, the video compression standard group, MPEG, okay, they started working on the video compression. The world has already moved to digital communication, digitization of signals, coding of signals in the voice domain. Everywhere it was text, voice, everything was getting coded. Okay, images and videos were on the horizon to be converted to digital data, right? So in television, when the initial phase was all analog, it immediately in 1990s to digitization of signal. Okay, so I am now in a position to define video signal. For all of you, because one picture is a spatial signal, XY, Cartesian space signal. Health. What is that? All naturally occurring signals. Let it be speech or voice or audio or for that take text, for that sake all natural images, natural scenes, natural photographs, valleys, mountains, etc. etc. Okay. All natural videos. Let's say sports video, any games video, cricket play going on. Okay. There's news reading kind of a video going on. Movies, fighting scene. All of them give me a support or help that all of them have one important feature known as redundancies. There is a correlatedness, heavy degree of association, heavy degree of neighborhood exhibited in between two consecutive samples. Two neighboring samples are alike, almost alike. Take an example of my speech now. Okay, I speak into microphone and collect a voice sample, electrical signal voice sample of my speech. Okay, if it is 1 volt, let's say at this moment of time, what will be it at next moment of time? 1.1 volt. Will it be 100 volt directly? Not at all. 1.1. I'll therefore say that 1.1, the next sample of my speech, is almost equal to 1 volt. Is it not? 1 volt was my earlier sample. In the same manner, every neighboring pixel, every next neighboring pixel in an image has some correlation as far as the intensity level goes with its neighborhood pixel. in this way. Okay, all the temporally, time order wise closer frames pictures, they have temporal correlation, right? And because of the redundancies, correlatedness, repetitiveness, etc., we have the support, we have the help for going for compression. Compression is all about exploiting redundancies, exploiting, working on correlatedness among the pixels, among the neighboring samples, and see to it that we can reduce the redundancy. What is the charm? What is the game in transmitting repetition? No game, okay? No achievement in transmitting repetitions. So we avoid the repetition, redundancies, correlatedness, achieve the compression. And in case of video, what happens? Within frame, intra-frame, there is a neighborhood, pixel to pixel neighborhood kind of correlation. Between frames, between pictures, there is a temporal correlation. So a lot of scope for compression and coding. By the way, I forgot, compression today goes along with coding. Compression, coding are synonymous words. Compression means coding, coding means compression. Assignment of bit code to a sample of the signal, it always goes along with compression. I first think of the ways and means and things, techniques and algorithms to compress the samples, okay, to see to it that I compress the signal and then assign finally the entropy based variable length code, bit code to it. Okay, so compression today goes along with coding, they have become synonymous. Okay, after all this resolution story I told you, so let us just visit some kind of pasted document here. I think it is visible, I have pasted it from some source. I acknowledge the source at the end of this total presentation. CCIR601, it is one of the standard names. Okay, 4:2:2 is the format. It is known as subsampling format. I'll come to it. This is a picture related to this 4:2:2 format. It is known as subsampling format. What does it show? CCR601 relates to television studio standard, right? So what are television speed transmit receive? Television signals, video signals will transmit receive. It is CCR601 is for that purpose. 4:2:2. Now see, Y signal, Y component, luminance component of the video signal. What is its resolution? Spatial resolution 720 by 480. What is 720? Number of pixels in one line. What is 480? Number of lines in one picture. For India, we following the PAL kind of system. We have this number to be 576. That 625 I mentioned in the earlier slide. That 625 comes down to number of useful productive lines equal to 576. So this number of lines in Indian television scenario is equal to 576. Okay, at this juncture of time, let me take a privilege to say that my speaking gets bit faster. Okay, I said that this total presentation session happens to be informative. It is conceptually informative. So I'm taking a privilege to speak fast, and it's my urge and appeal to the audience that they should synchronize with my speed of talking. I'm speaking bit faster, I understand. Okay, but all the information is getting passed on to you. So I think there is nothing new over here. Just relax and enjoy the session. I will be talking a little fast, but be attentive and see to it that you can grasp with that attentiveness and you can synchronize with my talking speed. So Y component, better resolution is required, 720 by 480, 720 pixels and 480 such lines in one picture frame. UV, color components, less resolution is required because my eyes are anyway not sensitive and sensible to that much color resolution. So UV is, believe, it is 720 is reduced to half, 360. Number of pixels are reduced. Okay, whereas number of lines are preserved. Applications are original digitalization format using CCR. It's for television. Look at that CCR601, 4:2:0 subsampling format. Y remains same, 720 by 480. But UV, see, it is 720 pixels came to 360, but 480 lines also have been halved here. Okay, so they are going to save on the resolution in CCR601 4:2:0 format. Digital video broadcast is a standard used in European countries for television communication. Okay, so they are naturally saving. Please, saving on resolution means saving on pixels. Saving on pixels means I am saving the entities which are codable, to which I am going to assign the code. So remember, first and foremost kind of principle of compression is how can I save on resolution? A very rude thought, very crude thought, very approximate thought, but reducing the resolution at the cost of reducing the quality naturally. Reducing the resolution, reducing the quality. But then can I really get a best compression? Possibilities, when you just compare 4:2:2 with 4:2:0, you will see that UV is going to have 360 by 240, less number of pixels, less number of codable entities, less amount of code therefore. At the cost of what? At the cost of some compromise in quality. Believe again in me, in digital kind of all communication storage etc. If I'm going to reduce the length of the code, it is always at the cost of quality of reconstruction of signal at the other end, at the user end. Okay, some quality I am going to compromise. When I compromise such resolution, I compress. Okay, compression is always at the cost of some quality. Lossy compression in particular. Okay, so these formats, these are high resolution picture format. Then for video conferencing, now I'm talking to you, I'm streaming my data to you, and this is video conferencing application. The format, the standard is known as CIF, Common Intermediate Format. Okay, see what is the resolution? Very less. When Y is reduced to 360 by 288, both the sides are half. Number of pixels half, number of lines also half. So as UV, okay, 180 by 144. Resolutions are too reduced and so on. Again at the cost of quality. But believe me that video conferencing doesn't expect the good video quality. I said no in the beginning of my session jokingly that my face is not important. What I speak is more important. The business getting transacted in video conferencing meetings is more important. Faces are not important. But in movies and television, faces are important. Face values are important, not what they talk. I jokingly always say, what they talk, blah, 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 is not important. But the face value, face carries the value because we look at the elegance. We look at the beauty of the face. So there I cannot compromise on resolution. So CIF format with a reduced resolution is for video conferencing kind of application. For mobile multimedia, mobile, when we began with mobile cell phone, mobile platform, the devices, they could not handle, the embedded platforms could not handle the bigger resolutions. So still further reduced kind of spatial resolutions over here. Okay, just to give an idea, these are the spatial resolutions which we can really compromise, right? So that is something which is required, which is the spatial resolution. Another texted slide over here, frame rates, temporal resolutions, full motion video, quality of reproduced video important. So number of frames brought in front of my eyes should be more. So 24 to 30. In India, 30 frames per second for movies is the standard. Television, 25 frames per second is the standard. But in HD TV, which is already in India existing, we take experience of it. 60 frames, as large as 60 frames per second. Can you believe? Too large, 60 frames per second. Almost pictures are thrown in front of my eyes continuously, almost continuously. No break, no jerky things at all. Okay, as high as 60 frames. What is the animation? 15 to 19 frames per second. It therefore looks synthetic. Full motion videos are really real life. Truly realistic, truly real life. Animations with synthetic experience, 15 to 19 frames. Video telephony, out of question. WhatsApp video call, let's say, 5 to 10 frames. Okay. Video conferencing, 15 frames per second. We follow 15 frames per second. Remember, temporal rates are getting reduced. Temporal resolutions are getting compromised. This naturally invites for compression. Number of entities to be coded are less, so compression is inherent. Inevitable. Okay, I'll do that. No problem. But this is not intelligent way of doing it. I'm already telling you it's at the trade-off, at the compromise of quality. Is it not? I've reduced the resolution, either in spatial domain or in temporal domain. Okay. What are the intelligent ways then? Intelligent ways are different. Before I proceed further, I again and again tell you to finish, to cover all 80 slides is not my motto. Is not my motive or goal at all. Okay. To make you little learned, if you are not learned about the topic, then let us make you little aware. So I'm not in a hurry at all. Okay. Some basics for any coding rather. And PCM, A to D conversion. All of you know these terms, analog to digital conversion. And then 8-bit PCM, pulse code modulation. It's a 3-step kind of process. I take analog signal, I take its sample, Nyquist rate samples and so on. All of you know that. Okay. Samples are discrete time samples, but the dynamic range of magnitudes of samples are exhaustively large. Is it not? I can have sample as small as minus 0.4 volt, but I can have as large as sample like say 10.01 volt. Dynamic ranges are quite large. Okay. Random sample can take any random value. Pixel intensity levels, black and white or color, they can range from any value to any value. Sample ranges. Okay. But therefore I go for an aggressive step known as quantization. Again, believe me, quantization is that wonder, that miracle which brings a good amount of quantitative compression. Major player in this whole game of compression is quantizer. Okay, what does in quantizer? Any random sample value having any kind of float number kind of value, etc. I see to it that I approximate it to nearest possible concrete value. In case of 8-bit voice PCM, 8-bit PCM used for voice signals. How many quantization levels I have? Only 256. So my random sample of voice can have any value any value. But I see to it that I fix it to, I approximate it to a nearest possible quantization value, one of the 256 only. Is it not? So at the output of quantizer, what do I have? One of the 256 only. So the code is fixed, 8-bit PCM. 2 raised to 8 is equal to 256. But in this way of assigning, approximating a random actual sample value with one of the concrete quantization labels, what I have done? I have created an approximation. Quantization introduces approximation, therefore known as quantization noise. Here is a step for approximation. And therefore, when I reconstruct signal from samples, okay, such all samples I am going to interpolate, take a low pass filtering, and I am going to reconstruct signal. Then the quality of reconstruction can be affected when my quantization is rude, when my quantization is too approximate. Can I have, let's say, all my dynamic range of samples of voice only approximated among 16 quantization levels? It is a rude approximation. Is it not? A 4-bit code, only 16 levels. How it will happen? It's a very crude kind of approximation, introducing a big amount of quantization error. I have lost the quality of reconstruction. So quantization, aggressive step, it is approximation of any random sample value into a fixed concrete value. May not be integer every time, but a fixed concrete value and fixed numbers of concrete values, right? And this gives me enables me to go for bit encoding in a nice fashion. Okay, so PCM is, all of you know, I understand that, but I have highlighted here differential PCM. Another very wonderful kind of philosophy, a thought process, which 50-60 years old thought process, and which is actually the foundation for today's video compression algorithm. Okay, all motion estimation, motion compensation, motion compensated prediction, all these terms are based on a very, very simple principle of differential PCM. What is it? Differential tells me, I told you know that in all real life occurring natural samples, for all samples of all naturally occurring signals, there is a high degree of correlatedness among neighboring pixels, neighboring samples. Okay, let's say xn is my present moment sample of my voice. What is xn minus 1? My previous moment sample. Two, right? They are neighboring samples, and xn will be always approximately equal to xn minus 1. Always. Okay, so it is always possible for me to predict, to estimate next moment sample from previous moment sample. Is it not? Because xn is equal to approximately xn minus 1. So I have written there equal to xn cap. What is xn cap? It's an estimate of the sample at next moment of time. It is naturally equal to the sample in the previous moment of time because they are approximately equal. Okay, and because the two consecutive neighboring samples are almost equal, their difference, error, En is equal to very, 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 very small. It is infinitesimally small, very small kind of quantity. Okay, if then that error difference is coded, the differential signal is coded, its dynamic range is small, it will naturally ask for less number of quantization levels and therefore less amount of bit length, code of less number of bits, etc. Okay, this error coding is the base of video compression also. This is differential PCM. Quantization already talked of, but again pay a special attention to this quantization term. In case of image compression, what we did, earlier speaker, I think day before, she talked of this image compression in detail. In image compression, we go for conversion of a space domain picture, space domain image, or spatial domain frame into frequency domain. We convert that into two-dimensional DCT domain. DCT is a frequency domain, is it not? And all these wonderful transforms, no? DFT, DCT, yesterday Dr. Bartak mentioned KL transform, PCA, all these transforms have one feature, one attribute, one very wonderful property for compression. What is that? They have property as energy compaction, right? In case of JPEG, Madam Madhuri Doshi, she mentioned to you day before yesterday. JPEG, in what I do is any dimension of image, I convert to blocks of each block of 8 by 8 size. How many pixels are there therefore in 8 by 8 size block? 64 pixels. All those 64 pixels being neighbors of each other are more or less equal. Just now I said no, there is a tight degree of association, tight demonstration of neighborhood. They are more or less equal. Okay. If I want to code them directly in space domain only, can I neglect, can I ignore any of these pixels? No, because they are more or less equal. All of their subjects are around 120, 122, 123, 124, 129, 119, more or less same because they demonstrate a heavy degree of association and the correlatedness. Is it not? I cannot ignore any one of them. But when I convert the same 64 pixel group into two-dimensional DCT domain, then the representation of this information from space to spatial frequency domain gives me only 10-15 significant density coefficients. Energy has been compressed into only 10-15 significant density coefficients. So naturally, every transform naturally by default gives me the number conversion from 64 numbers to 15 numbers. So 64 equally significant pixels were there. Now I got only 15 DCD coefficients which are worth coding. Okay, so worth coding number was 64 before DCT. Worth coding number after DCT is 15. Then I quantize those DCT coefficients. It is again a crude kind of approximation. I am going to just divide it by quantization coefficient, Q number over there, again reduce them to zeros and so on, again make them throwable, further throwable, and reduce the number of codable entities. Okay, so quantized DCT coefficients are codable entities, and number of codable entities I am going to reduce. That is going to happen. Ultimately, with this least number of codable entities remaining with me, I go for Huffman code, a legacy. Huffman code is a legacy. Arithmetic code is relatively new. It's an entropy based variable length code. Look at the probability of the DCT coefficient, number of occurrences, more number of occurrences, less length, less number of occurrences, more length of the code. That's the way. Okay. For your reference, this is a JPEG encoder. I just talked about it. 8 by 8 block over here. Okay, 8 by 8 block, 64 pixels, forward discrete cosine transform, quantizer, entropy encoder, either Huffman or arithmetic coding, and then JPEG decoder goes, etc., etc. If quantizer is crude or approximate, if quantizer is here crude, very like I have got step size of quantizer very big, then I am going to go for more compression, more losses. So my SQNR or PSNR will be naturally affected. Okay, and the quality of reconstruction which I get over here will not be same as I explained with the kind of bigger PSNR and so on. Okay, so quantizer plays a major role in deciding quantity of compression, naturally at the cost of quality of reconstruction. Okay, coming to video compression. Quickly, raw videos contain immense amount of, one example has been given over there, and believe me, even though bandwidth we talk of SHF and EHF, extra high frequency, super high frequency, ultra wideband, optical fibers, whatnot, right? And even though the bandwidths are touching skies, but then still the users, the end users, the data generators are so large in number in the world that we still are deprived of, or we are feeling crunch of the resources of bandwidth. Storage, we come across enhanced capacities of all the memories, semiconductor, magnetic, optical, nanos, and whatever, right? But they still, even though they are improving, they are still finding their crunch. So we have to therefore see to it that all the signals we compress and then encode before we go for communication and storage. One nice example given here, HDTV. What is HDTV resolution? 720, 1280. Okay, so 1280 pixels in every line, such 720 lines. 60 frames, I just mentioned in the previous slide, 60 frames in 1 second. Then because it's a color television, HDTV is a color television, right? So 1 pixel means 3 colors, no? Y CBCR, Y IQ, Y IV. Let's say I just crudely assign the code without compression kind of mindset, 8 bit per pixel. Okay, so 24 bits for these 3 colors, etc. I'll be getting 1.3 Gbps, huge 1.3 Gbps. Whereas HDTV channel bandwidth allotted to me is only 20 Gbps. So it mandates me, necessitates that I must reduce the consumption. 1.3 Gbps must be reduced to accommodate, to be pushed for 20 Mbps kind of a HDTV channel bandwidth. Now the nice example for storage. Okay, 720 by 480 kind of frame, 90 minutes of Hollywood movie. Okay, 30 frames per second. This is all about the movie. So I'll again multiply 720 by 480 into 30, that much of pixels in 1 second, and then such 90 minutes. It's all full color, so 24 bits for the full color kind of a triplet of a pixel. It gives me 167.96 gigabytes of data. Oh ma, 64 GB is a pen drive available now, is it not? But to just store a 90 minutes movie, I require 168 GB. So I cannot accommodate, push that movie to be stored in a pen drive. So this necessitates, why should we go for compression? Huge amount of data is required daily. Again, some wonderful chart over here. Video conference kind of application, 350 by 240 is the spatial resolution, 15 frame per second temporal resolution. Uncompressed data will be 30.4 Mbps. Whereas I just require 64 kbps when I compress it. Similarly, CD-ROM 350 by 250, 30 FPS, 60. CD-ROMs are by the way obsolete now. Broadcast television video, 720 by 480. For India, this 480 is 576. If 30 is 25. Okay, numbers are to be adjusted. Then the uncompressed 248.8, but we are going to compress it to 328 Mbps because of our jugglery, all the gimmicks of algorithms. Intelligent algorithm will be doing this. HDTV 280 by 720, 60 FPS, 1.32 Gbps, 20 Mbps. So with compression, I can really reduce that data burden from huge figures to certain smaller figures like this. They now become storage friendly. They become communication channel friendly. Okay, and this is all purpose of this video compression. So I already told you temporal redundancy between the frames, among the frames, among the group of pictures, sequence of pictures in the video. I've got temporal redundancy, right? I've shown the very nice picture also. Within frame, yes, I got neighborhood among the pixels. They are closely associated as far as their light intensity levels or color levels go. I got inter-frame redundancy. I got intra-frame redundancy. Spatial redundancy within frame, temporal redundancy between frames. Is it not? So both redundancies exist in the video, and therefore it is much more helpful for the compression. This is the picture which has been shown over here. That see, there is a cricket. Some game is going on. Some game is going on. Okay, and then this is the group of pictures. I think my pointer is visible to you. And similarities exhibit successive frames. These are the two successive frames drawn. One frame at t-1 timestamp, other frame at t timestamp. Okay, there is hardly any difference seen between these two consecutive frames. Hardly any difference. See, the sky is same, the ground is same, the colors of the shirts of all those players is same. All the players look same. Number of players are same. Only difference. Just listen very carefully. Only difference is there has been some motion of the moving objects. Which are moving objects here? All these persons, no, the players, they are going to exhibit, demonstrate some kind of motion, and therefore frame number t and frame at t-1. What is the difference? This is the minor difference over here. Minute difference over here, that only some motion has been undertaken. Other details are same. Okay. Then the differential kind of a feature. What is differential feature? Everything looks to be almost same. No, nothing is different over here. Only some small motion has been undertaken by the moving objects, the people, the players in these two consecutive frames. Can I somehow detect that motion undertaken? Can I detect? Can I model? Okay, if it is possible to model this, then the game is sorted out. Okay, then I'm successful in seeing to it that, and this is all crux of all this business of video compression. Okay, so frame at t-1, previous frame, frame at t, current frame. Okay, these two frames are a little bit different. What is the only difference over here? The redundancies are a lot. Backgrounds are same, sky is same, ground is same, everything is same. Only some small motion has been undertaken. There is a word known as motion estimation and motion compensation over here. I think my pointer is visible to all of you, and therefore we should process it for reducing time-wise temporal redundancies and take the subtraction. Only encode differential information which is related to motion information. Is it not? What is differential information here? Which is related to motion only. So just let us encode only that motion information. Okay. So rest of my 3, 4, 5 slides now coming hereafter are dedicated to motion estimation. Okay. Look at these three: motion compensation, and these are the two very crucial terms in video compression: motion compensation, motion estimation. Okay, look at this frame. They have drawn some L kind of inverted L kind of structure over here. That is a previous frame. This is a previous frame. I think it is visible. Then there is a current frame. Okay, another L inverted they have drawn. There are two frames over here, and there is a moving object over here in the previous frame. Okay, whereas stationary background remains again stationary at T also. At T-, it was same. What has only happened? And moving object, because of its motion, it now occupies a different location in the current frame. Is it not? Let us assume that this moving object is comprising of some number of pixels, but all pixels, they move with the equal speed. Can it be a good approximation? Probably yes. All pixels in a moving object, they move with the same speed. By the way, in the prevailing standards of video compression, we only entertain the motions of moving objects which are translational motions, linear motion, motion across one line. Curvilinear motions, rotational motions are not addressed from some prevailing standards of video compression. So this object has moved in a line, it has undergone a translational linear motion over there. Therefore, the representative XY coordinate of this object in this previous frame has shifted, has changed. Are you understanding it? Yes. There was some kind of a, let's say there is some origin over here, some center of center of gravity. Okay, for this kind of object, let's say physical center of this moving object. It is, let's say, characterized by one coordinate x0, y0. Then that x0, y0 doesn't remain constant in the coming frame. Is it not? Because it has undergone a motion. That x0 becomes x0 minus u and y0 minus v. Okay, what is the u and v? U and v happens to be the shift in the coordinate, shift or change in the coordinates by the time that moving object switches from one frame to other frame. It has undertaken the motion, so therefore there is a shift in the coordinates from x to x minus u, from y to y minus v. This is shift in the coordinate, and shift in the coordinates means the displacement, means the motion. So I got a trick. What is the trick? This u and v, this is a shift in the coordinate, the differential coordinates, and they stand for the motion which has been demonstrated by the moving object over here. And all my now efforts go behind finding out this u and v, Okay, this is known as motion estimation. What is motion estimation? This, by the way, this coordinate uv is known as motion vector. Why vector? Because this is a velocity which has been shown by moving object over here, change in the coordinates x0, y0 to x0 plus u, x0 minus u, plus minus u or plus minus v. So uv happens to be the new shifted coordinate over there. uv is therefore going to quantify the motion undertaken by this particular moving object from previous frame to this frame. And my efforts are now is to identify, to calculate what is this u and v. How will I do that? Okay. Then there are some definitions over here. Look at the definitions first. Motion estimation is the process of finding corresponding pixels among frames. That is motion vector uv. So motion vector uv, amount or quantifying the motion is motion estimation. Calculating what is that u and v. Okay. Motion vector is that relative displacement of the object from one frame to the another in terms of u and v. Right? And there is one prediction error. Okay. What is IXYT? IXYT was the intensity distribution, either color or brightness or black and white in the XYT. What is XYT? XY is the original spatial coordinate, T is that frame number in time. Okay. And this was a previous frame, x minus u, y minus v, t minus y. Okay. And these two are approximately equal. I said, differential PCM, they're approximately equal. What is the only difference? That u and v is the difference. That's the difference, because there is no much difference except this motion. Therefore, this error, this EXYT signal, this video signal, the spatio-temporal 3D signal happens to be error signal, which is quite small. I will then create the 2D DCT entropy coding for this small error signal over here and not the original frame. This is differential frame or the prediction error. Okay, that has been shown over here. I got IXYT minus 1 as one input. I got IXYT as other frame, and I am going to have motion estimation which calculates UV, motion compensation which is a block which calculates EXYT. Okay, so don't go after estimation compensation words. Motion estimation mechanically is a block which finds out UV, which quantifies the motion and gives you the values of U and V. What is motion compensation? It calculates the difference frame. What is difference frame? Frame between IXYT and Ix minus U, Y minus V, T minus 1. The differential calculator. And then subject this differential frame to 2D DCT, entropy coding, etc., and so on. Okay. This is the crux of all kind of video compression. This is now exaggerated over here, motion vector calculation. This is the reference frame could be previous frame. Okay, this is target frame, the current frame going on. There is a moving object, the circle has been shown over here, and let us say it is a concept known as macro block. Macro block typically in video compression is of the size 16 by 16. Okay, what are the block size codable entity in case of JPEG? It was 8 by 8. In case of video compression, macro block is a codable entity, codable unit. It is typically of the size 16 by 16. We assume that one moving object is covered by one macro block. This is the assumption for the time being, may not be true every time. Okay, I may need many macro blocks to cover one moving object. But here what is the assumption? That I am going to cover one macro block for one object. That is my assumption over here. Okay, so I am in a target frame. This is characterized by some kind of representative coordinate x0, y0. Okay, and the block size is n by n, 16 by 16, n by n. Okay, this is a square block size which is covering this moving object over here. This is known as macro block. What do I do? What is the algorithm? I just paste this macro block which covers this circular kind of object into the reference frame. Reference frame is typically occurring at t minus 1. Current frame occurs at present moment, t time. Okay, target frame occurs at this moment. And what do I do? This has been simply pasted over here. Okay, and around this pasted kind of a macro block, which is pasted from, copied and pasted from target frame, what do I do? I got a search region, search window. What is search window's zone? It is from minus p to plus p. Minus p to plus p means what is the width? 2p plus 1. Minus p to plus p is 2p plus 1, 2p, and there is one origin, so 2p plus 1. What is the height? Again 2p plus 1. How many search locations are that I have created in the search region? 2p plus 1 by 2p plus 1, so 2p plus 1 square. Okay, 2p plus 1 square. I am going to architect or design this own boundary known as search region or search window surrounding this target block, surrounding the macro block over there. Okay, I will be searching for the best match, best block match for this derived block. What is my aim actually? I have to find out where is the block, where is the best matching block pixel intensity level wise in this reference frame. What is the search region? Search region is having how many locations? 2p plus 1 square locations. At each and every location, I will keep on comparing the pixel intensity levels in this block. I will do that. This is really a compute intensive application. Whenever I find the pixel intensity distribution matching with this block, actually difference, the comparison will give me minimum difference, minimum error. Is it not? Then I will stop. So remember this x0, y0 is again shown over here, but this x0, y0 and this x0 plus u and y0 plus v, when this has shifted over here, that shows me the best match, right? Number of search locations I have restricted to 2p plus 1 square. Assume that this moving object is making very, very fast motion. Then what should be this p value? Large or small? It should be large. Because if the motion of the object is very large, it will move around anywhere in this typical reference frame. Anywhere. So p should be larger. So value of p is programmable. In typical news reading kind of scene, when there is no motion, news reader is just statically looking at you, then this p could be smaller. But in a hectic kind of activity, motion activity kind of stuff, this p could be as large as possible, could be equal to frame size also. Okay, it could be as large as frame size. But this p is to be therefore intelligently chosen so that I am going to have the trade-off between number of locations of search that I have to go for. So p is smaller for low motion activity kind of objects. P is very heavy, very large for high motion activity kind of object. I am assuming over here that one macro block is one object, but typically one moving object may need many macro blocks. Okay, but again remember, this is the only expression in my total presentation. This C stands for current, R stands for reference. Current frame, reference frame. Okay, X and Y are the coordinates of the spatial coordinates. K and L, indices of pixels in the macro block. Okay, X and Y are generally the frame coordinates, but K and L are the indices for pixels in n by n macro block. What is size of macro block? So K will change from 0 to n minus 1. K will change from L equal to 0 to n minus 1. So K and L are indices of macro block. I and J. Oh, I and J is a horizontal or vertical displacement. I am going to search for that Ij which I can freeze to UV. What is that? Whenever this difference, remember this is intensity level difference which is location dependent. Okay, there is a mod. So it's the absolute difference and it's average because there is average 1 upon n square over there. This is a compute intensive mathematical operation. There should be some Ij at which what happens? This difference becomes almost 0. Okay, mean average difference becomes almost 0. Mean absolute difference is almost 0. I will stop at that value of Ij and declare that to be UV. Okay, that UV I take it to a motion vector. Once motion vector is known to me, I can also go for the differential frame calculation known as motion compensation that I can easily do. I assume you understood this. There is another kind of an animated thing over here. See, there is what I did. I had only current frame. There was a macro block here. I pasted that macro block here. Okay, I pasted that. This is the search range. I am not going to search across the full pixel locations of reference. I am going to have a boundary. Boundary is the search region. Okay. then I'm going to have really in this search region, what I'm going to do, this square in macro block, I'm going to start from this location. I'm going to start from the location. This is 8 by 8, so I'm going to get all these values over there. This reference, the pasted macro block has these values over there. Then next I subtract the two. I therefore get some kind of subtraction, and I get some kind of averaging equal to 12. So when I did this kind of block matching, what is the mean absolute difference? 12. So is it the right matched block? Not at all. This is not a right matched block because MAD did not come out to be 0. It is not minimized. Okay. So this is not a matching block for this. Not at all. So I went on doing this. Look at now, I went on doing this. It's a very compute intensive application. Somewhere here, this position match with this position. So therefore I can look it to be this UV which I assigned to that IJ. I took it to be naturally a motion vector. Once this is done, I said it is compute intensive, computationally heavy kind of a activity. So people went about it, and there were so many researchers, PhD doers who did this in how to reduce computational complexity of this block matching search algorithm. They were known as block matching search algorithm. Okay, how to find the best match of blocks. This is how to find the faster things of doing it. By the way, the thing demonstrated was known as full search. All locations in search region were fully searched. I did not skip any of the location. Whereas faster algorithms are also available. So let's go discuss one of them. So other fast block matching algorithm, they will not be as accurate as full search block matching algorithm. Okay. So there is a one search like 2D logarithmic search method, which is demonstrated here. So I start with only some limited. Then locate 1 1. Look at 1 1 1. So I started 1. There are 9 locations over here. Discretized 9 pixel locations at which I calculate the MAD. Okay, I calculate the absolute difference, found out its mean. Maybe at this location in the first kind of iteration, I got minimum over here. Okay, then surrounding this minimum, I went for another 9 locations. But in the next iteration, what I did, when the interpixel difference was 4 here, I reduced that interpixel difference by 2. So it was logarithmic, no? So from 4 interpixel difference, I came to 2 interpixel difference. Okay, and I got minimization at, let's say, this 2. Then I again went for another 9 locations. Again, the interpixel difference is reduced. Distance is reduced to 1. So I went from 4 interpixel distance to 2 interpixel distance to 1 interpixel distance. So logarithmically, interpixel distance is reduced. How many locations? 9 plus 9 plus 9, 27. Okay, this is rough. This is fast but rough. I will be getting some kind of minimum kind of value. I may go for some value of U and V. It may not be as fine as I would obtain in full search. Full search is exhaustive search. It is computationally demanding. It will accurately find out for you the kind of a very accurate local motion vector. Okay, so motion estimation is very accurate in full search block matching algorithms, not that accurate in 2D logarithmic search or 3 steps. There are many searches. Okay, and I said, many PhD theses have gone for such kind of search algorithms over there. Okay, it's again a trade-off. Accuracy of motion vector means accuracy of modeling of the motion, means accuracy of UV, means accuracy of motion compensation, means accuracy of differential frame. Believe me, this is all cascade kind of chain. So motion vectors must be accurately calculated. But again, accuracy is a trade-off, is it not? And I assume that one object was covered by one macro block. So one motion vector per macro block. Are you getting it? It is one motion vector per macro block. In case of now standards we are going to start with, we are going to categorize. All the standard developers have categorized before compression. They are classifying, they are tagging, they are stamping the kinds of all frames over here. The frames, by the way, there is some terminology. There is a terminology known as sequence of videos. Okay, terminology known as group of pictures. Very meaningful kind of terminology. Group of pictures. What is group of pictures? It is all pictures which are semantically related, context-wise related. Okay, one scene is fighting scene, other scene is emotional scene. Then all frames, all pictures of fighting scene taken bundled together is one group of picture. All emotional scenes, all crying kind of scenes, all bundle of frames taken together contextually, semantically, one group of pictures. Okay, so this is one group of pictures is shown, and every frame, every picture is categorized, stamped as I frame. I frame is known as this. Data is there from Intra. Intra is also independent frame. Okay, independent frame, and this frame is without reference to any other picture. Means what? I will not use this frame for probably, I will not relate it for some kind of a referencing, etc. Okay, it's an independent frame. Then there is a frame known as predicted frame. P frame, this P letter stands for predicted frame, and they have shown this predicted frame. What is predicted frame? I'll use this predicted frame to predict the motion, UV motion vector from I frame. Can I use it? Yes, I can use it. Okay. When the object has moved from this I frame to P frame, I'll use this P frame depends somehow, is related somehow temporally to the I frame. So in this frame, the motion vectors are predictable from the moving objects over here. Okay. So P frame reference to I picture. I can use another P frame as a reference from some other P frame also. No problem. So P frames are predicted frame. More number of P frames means good invitation for compression. 20:1. If all are I means I am not at all going to use concept of temporal redundancy, no motion vector compensation, no motion vector, no motion estimation of it. Okay, no exploitation, no deployment of any kind of motion estimation and compensation, no temporal redundancy. Everything is I. Then that is known as motion JPEG. Okay, motion JPEG was also existent sometimes, but it only gives you compression of 10:1. All independent frames, no referencing, no cross referencing, no dependencies going to be exploited. But P frames, okay, I can use them as but I can depend on the I frame to refer something from that I frame to the P frame. So motion vector, motion estimation, motion compensation, all is eligibly applied for this P frames over here. Compression ratio is 20:1, bigger one. Okay, B frame, another kind of a useful concept over here. B frames can be correlated to, now the reference changes. I always say I believe in the causal systems, and I say that every frame at T should depend on T-1 frame. Is it not? But in all sorts of offline processing, I can also have a reference frame which is a future frame, T+1 frame. Is it not? So can I have one frame which is dependent on this frame and that frame? So all bidirectional frames, they find their references, they find their motion vector computations, motion compensation from two neighboring things. So this B can depend on this B as well as this B. Okay, more dependence, more cross-referencing, more correlation between among three consecutive frames, etc. More compression, 50:1. Okay, only I frames, less compression. I and P together, more compression. I, P, B together, most compression. Okay, because there is cross-referencing over here, more motion compensation concept I am going to exploit over here with B pictures. That is something IPB. So categorization of pictures in group of pictures is IPB. Independent picture, intra picture, predicted picture, P picture, and bidirectional picture, which is cross-reference with two frames, is known as B picture. How do I code intra frame? Look at this arrangement. Okay, I have got one signal, one set rather, Y, CB, CR. This set color domain which are taken for. Okay, this is 16:16. This is 16:16. Okay, how many 8-byte blocks are there in 16:16? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So one 16:16 Y block means actually 4 8-byte blocks over here. If the color subsampling format is 4:2:0, then I am going to subsample on both the dimensions, X dimension, Y dimension. So only one 8-byte block of CB is taken, only one 8-byte block of CR is taken. So much of subsampling for CBCR. Okay, that's the way I have taken it over here. So why 4 blocks, 4 8-byte blocks to be coded. CBCR, no, only one 8-byte block for CB, one 8-byte block for CR. That is 4:2:0. If it would have been 4:2:2, I would have taken 2 8-byte blocks of CB, 2 8-byte blocks for CR, and 4 8-byte blocks 16:16 for Y. Y always remains typically 16:16, so 4 8/8, whereas how many here? Okay, I can very well have 4:4:4, but that is not typically I want, because my eyes are not that much sensitive to chroma variations. Okay, so I will not go for. So what are subsampling formats? 4:2:2 or 4:2:0. Here that is demonstration is 4:2:0. No cross-referencing, no motion vector, no motion estimation, no motion compensation, plain. So all those blocks are 8-byte wise. This is simple image compression, JPEG. Okay, 8-byte block, DCT, quantization, entropy coding. Over. I frame coding is motion JPEG. Okay, P frame coding, I have to refer that target frame with a reference frame. The reference frame typically is the previous frame. P-1 frame, this is P frame. So macro block 16 by 16 size. So current macro block match with the base to match from the reference macro block. Differential frame is calculated. There is a negative sign shown over here, subtraction shown over here, and the difference macro block. Note down, difference macro block is now getting encoded. What is difference macro block? There's one 4:2:0. This difference macro block is now going to invite a big amount of compression. Okay, referencing of target frame with reference frame which was t-1 in a causal way. It's a causal system, right? Finding out base match either with the full search or some lower dimensional search, 2D logarithms, etc. Then go for differential kind of structure, subtraction over here, and difference macro block is there. Huge amount of invitation can be compression can be invited over here, right? For B pictures, what will happen? There are three frames. One is a current frame, target frame, and there are two frames: reference frame 1, reference frame 2. This could be t-1, this could be t-2, both could be t-1, t-2. Both are. If the causal system I want to deploy, this is t-1, this is t-2. Okay, there are two motion estimators, therefore two motion vectors. I require an average motion vector over here, and that is getting encoded. A bigger invitation, a bigger achievement in terms of compression for B picture. Okay, remember again, I said you one macro block, one moving object, one motion vector. Every macro block is associated with one motion vector. Motion vector is a discrete sample quantity that also needs encoding, no? Yes, that also needs encoding. So code for motion vector also is to be embedded somehow. This is video streaming syntax in any standard to be discussed over here is going as per this 6th layer. Sequence layer, as I said you, sequence layer, okay. Let me talk of GOP layer. I already explained you, all fighting scene pictures taken together in one group of pictures. Okay, all games, sports, sequence of pictures taken through one group of pictures. All emotional scenes, one group of pictures, etc., etc. Okay, in group of picture, I'll have picture. Actually, group of pictures is comprising of multiple pictures. So one picture. In one picture horizontally, one picture is what now? There are so many. 480 lines, 720 pixels. Is it not? So 480 lines, one line is known as one slice. One slice. There is a slice hierarchically below the picture. So picture comprises of slice. So group of picture comprises of pictures. Picture comprises of slices. Okay, slices are a horizontal line. Group of horizontal lines are equal to one line. Every slice comprises of macro block. What is macro block size? 16 by 16. Okay, and if it is 4:2:0 subsampling, then 16 by 16, 4 8x8 blocks of Y and 1 8x8 block each of CB and CR. That is macro block layer. What is block? Block is always codable unit, minimum codable unit MCU, which is 8x8. Okay, how many 8x8 blocks are required therefore? In 4:2:0 subsampling format, 4 blocks of Y, 1 block of CB, 1 block of CR. 6 blocks, each of 8x8 pixel dimension is required. This is the hierarchy. This is the streaming syntax. See, it's a syntax, it's a grammar, very systematic configuration. I have to always go in a group of picture, then slice, then macro block, then block, in this way only. And every block has an identity, identifier. Every macro block has an identifier, header as we say. Every slice has a header identifier. Every picture has a header. Every GOP has a header. All these header goes as a synchronization information. Okay, it is simply a packetized data, and in networks, all of you know, in communication network, everything is packetized data. Then we all these packet identifiers, no, our payload. Okay, they say it's all kind of extra information which I'm going to attach to this all actual information. Okay, this is that kind of thing. See, again the same games, sports going on over here. This is group of pictures related to the same context, same semantics, same meaning over here. Okay, then this group of pictures is one picture is exploded over here. Then these two lines could be one slice. Then one slice contains a macro block. One macro exploded as 4 Y block, 1 CRCB, and this is one block, minimum codable unit. What is the hierarchy therefore? Group of pictures, picture, slice, macro block, block. That's our minimum codable unit is block, 8x8, 64. Okay, so any processing platform has to ultimately deal with only 64 pixels, 64 entities to be coded. That is taken for granted now. Then I mentioned you the header is again exploded over here. See, macro block layer. Then I got MB header over here. What does macro block contain? It contains Y1, Y2, Y3, Y4, the 4 Luma components, 1 CB, 1 CR, 8 byte, that is over there. But this MB header information contains address of that macro block. Okay, contains what kind of quantizers I am going to use, quantized values I am going to use over there. It also contains motion vector, encoded motion vector of that macro block. all this information goes in MB header. It is extra information, but essential information. Is it not? This header happens to be an additional, essential overhead information over there. Okay. What is block layer now? Block layer has got this kind of stuff. Y1, Y2, Y3, Y4. Now Y1 have converted to 2D DC domain. This set of DC coefficients, set of AC coefficient. More of DC low frequency coefficients are there significantly. EOB is end of block. All this is essential overhead information. This is the way syntax mode. Coming to MPEG, I have it is 3:20. There are more 10-15 minutes with me. I may probably go through MPEG 1-2 as I assume. Okay. And then I may not be able to cover the full kind of stuff, but then this is nice. Moving Pictures Expert Group was a group of experts really who wanted to work in, they started in 1988, 1989. They were working with ISO, International Standard Organization. It was, they started working for compression, decompression, processing, etc., etc. Okay. These are an informative slide. 1990, the story started for video compression. It is still going on, but this ends is the original slide, so it ends at 2003. Okay. See, there is some horizontal bifurcation over here, a hatch line. Above that, there is ITUT. What is ITUT? International Telecommunication Union. It's a T group, Video Coding Expert Group. And they evolved the standards H. series, H.261, H.263, H.263 plus, and there are different years mentioned over here. Today, prevalent standard is H.264. Okay, H.264. Now, H.265 has already come into picture. It's also prevailing now. Okay, and with every bundle, this anyway, remember, all the coding standards are bundles of techniques and processes, algorithms. Okay, and all are interoperable. What is interoperable? They are downward compatible. Each have got, let's say, H.264 transmission going on as per H.264 standard, but I have H.263 kind of receiver. End user has got H.263 kind of receiver. H.264 kind of a transmission is going on. Can H.263 decoder receive and decode the data coming from H.264 encoder? Answer is yes. There is interoperability and there is a downward compatibility. That should happen. Okay. Whereas above has there was a H. series developed by ITU. There was other group ISO IC who let's say established the MPEG kind of group, and they evolved MPEG 1, MPEG 2, MPEG 3, MPEG 4, so many versions, etc. Then MPEG 7 came, MPEG 21 came, and so on. There was some overlap, there was some distinctness among these standards, but today prevailing standard is H.264, which is equivalent to MPEG 4 part 10, releases and releases afterwards. More of that, H. is kind of open standard. Open standard means all the syntax, all the code, all the programs are available for as an open access. We can download, we can update, we can upload. Okay, we can contribute. MPEG is that we are patented. It's kind of a proprietary kind of technology bundle, and it is therefore used for commercial purposes. H.264 available for researchers. Okay, but H. is a series of video compression coding standards. MPEG is commercial series. H. is open access series. That's the way they overlap. There is a lot of overlap. There are a lot of common algorithms here and there that will keep on happening. MPEG 1.2. MPEG 1 was a preliminary standard. Okay, MPEG 2 was in execution for long years. MPEG 4, it is still in practice. MPEG 7 came somewhere into existence. So this is some story where we don't have time to go through. It's again on the time scale. MPEG 1, when it started in 1988, its target was only digital storage media, okay, which could accommodate 1.5 Mbps. It could entertain 1.5 Mbps of data rate. Digital storage media in those days in CIF kind of format, so DVD and VCD and so on, now which are obsolete. So MPEG 1 is also obsolete by and large, right? It is not existing. It was targeting only storage on digital storage media, VCDs and DVDs at the rate of 1.5 Mbps. So compression was ensured up to 1.5 Mbps. Okay, this is now obsolete. We should not talk of it. CIF was the kind of numerical support it had. MPEG 1, it supported NTSC with this resolution. CIF resolutions, all reduced resolutions, no? 350 by 240, CBCR 160, very low resolution. Already compression was there, it was supporting IPB frames. All the previously defined kind of tags of frames, they were allowed over here. But look at the resolutions. Very less resolution, so it was at the cost of quality. MPEG 1 is no more existing. Let us look at MPEG 2. MPEG 2 really dominated the television industry, television business. Okay, the assured rate was 4 to 20 Mbps for digital TV. It was broadcast naturally. digital TV, HDTV, everything. It is still prevalent in India also. Okay, and it supported interlay scanning also. Not only progressive scanning, but interlay scanning also. What is progressive scanning? All the lines 1 to 625 in a sequence. What is interlay scanning? 312.5 odd field first, then even field. Okay, it has got advantage of reducing flicker. So interlay scanning was not supported in MPEG 1, it is supported in MPEG 2, right? But MPEG 2 is more or less for broadcast television. Remember that? It was dominating standard for almost a decade kind. It has got another idea of profiles and levels, we'll come to it. But MPEG 2, let us look at it. Serves a wide range of applications. Look at only these blue letters over here. It has a profile. Profile is defined subset of syntax. Syntax, now you know what is syntax. Syntax is sequence of pictures, group of pictures, slice of picture, slice in a picture, macro block in a slice, block in a macro block. That hierarchical way of defining a video stream syntax. Okay, so profile is some subset of that video streaming syntax. We'll come to it. What is label? Label are all these values. What is spatial resolution and what is temporal resolution? All these values. It is typical combination of profile and label which was suggested by MPEG 2. We'll come to it. What is profile and label? Okay. So look at label. What are the labels which were defined, which were say addressed and which were allowed, permitted for incorporation in MPEG 2? What are the label names? High, high 1440, main and low. These were four kind of labels over there. Okay. What is the meaning of high level? High level is 1920 by 1152. 1152 lines, 1920 pixels. What is the frame rate? 60. So high was typically for HDTV. Okay. Among that HDTV also there was 1152 by 1440. So 1440 pixels, another kind of upper support. But the main is a average kind of a level. 720 by 576. Okay, 720 pixels in one line, such 576 line, 30 frames per second, Indian standard. Okay, this also becomes 25 frames per second. All these numbers, no, these all numbers of spatial and temporal resolution are embedded in these levels. And these four levels were allowed, permitted for MPEG encoding, decoding, algorithmic actions. Okay, MPEG encoder hardware software, firmware, MPEG 2 decoder hardware software firmware, where all could address, could accommodate all such labels. Okay, what is profile? Profile are 5 in number: simple profile, main profile, spatial resolution profile, quantization accuracy profile, high profile. What are the combination? But main profile, main level. That was the highest used kind of MPML. Main profile, main level. One of the most popular settings of encoder decoder, main profile, main level. Okay, it was used in North America, Europe and Japan and everywhere. MPML. Let us look at what is MPML. In this table, if it is visible, then look at this main level and main profile. It is general. 720 by 576 by 30. 30 frames per second, 720 pixels, 576 line. This was in incorporation. Very well. Okay, that was the thing. And spatial resolution, enhancement lower. In MPEG 2 only, MPEG 2 only, there was a kind of a seed was sown towards MPEG 4, and then they said that MPEG 2, what seed was sown? A quality of service rendered, quality of service assured, quality of reconstruction of video assured to the end user, the customer, was associated with the cost. Okay, there was some labor over here which is known as, let's say, enhancement layer. Enhancement layer is for better quality and this lower is for lower quality. How can we get enhancement quality? Let's say I have gone for a smoother quantization, quantizer, while quantizing my 2D DCD coefficient. Then my SQNR is good, PSNR is good. Then I will be getting less compression but better quality. This better quality, if it is affordable by the end user by paying some cost, I will offer the enhancement level to him. Okay, but if is the average paying guy, then lower level can be ordered by him. Lower level means I'll be getting a base level. What is base level? 720 by 576 by 30. Then I can certainly offer him a better kind of stuff. Okay, so as far as quality of reconstruction, quality of recovered video is considered, I can have this kind of scalability. And scalable coding systems, therefore, scalable coding schemes, the seed was already sown, idea was already generated in the MPEG 2 times only. Okay, I can have SNR kind of scalability. So two different streams, video streams, I will communicate, encode and communicate to the receiver, to the decoding side. Okay, one with bigger SNR, one with poor SNR. Poor SNR at low cost, bigger SNR at high cost. It is a question of affordability by the end user. Spatial scalability, a bigger dimension kind of stuff, I'll offer at a bigger cost to the good users, okay, rich users rather. Whereas lower resolution, I'll be giving for poor people who will not be able to afford that much amount of cost. So there is spatial scalability. Then 30 FPS frame rate or 20 FPS, 25 FPS frame rate. All these, the code streams, the video streamings are available for me, and I assume that I can be able to transmit such multiple kind of streams. A multiplexer will choose one of them as per subscribed by the end user. Okay, this scalable Codio scheme therefore are scalable in terms of data rates, scalable in terms of bit rates which I am going to obtain at the encoder's output. Okay, and then rich people who can afford to go for better SNR quality, to go for better spatial resolutions, to go for better temporal resolutions, they'll be naturally go for it. Okay, poor people who can only afford for average quality, they'll go for base level SNR, base level spatial resolution, base level temporal resolution. Okay, data partitioning is something which is very critical. I'll say that assume that there is a very kind of a very rich person who can afford to establish two physical channels from transmitter to receiver to his premises. Okay, two physical channels, two physical communication channels. Then on one channel, we will communicate all video, audio encoded stream, actual syntax stream. Okay, whereas the other channel, I'll be embedding some kind of forward error correction, so that is a standby channel, and if noise is going to corrupt that video streaming kind of data, then forward error correction on the other channel, moving on the other channel, can correct something. Okay, so two physical channels are getting established at the premises of a rich person, rich customer who can afford for such kind of thing. And what is data partitioning therefore? A base layer kind of video streaming I do on one channel. What is the other channel? I transmit enriched kind of video stream. What is that? It is enriched with all FEC code, forward error correction code. And if something bad happens on the channel, some noise corrupts the other channel, then the redundant standby channel is available, which corrects all the errors, and uninterruptedly the communication of that video stream goes to the rich customer. Okay, so scalable Codio was already existing. There is a base layer, there is an enhancement layer. Okay, so look at that. Everywhere there is a base layer, there is an enhancement layer. I'll just skip through it and we'll go for, this is all interlay scanning and good picture. Let's go for MPEG 1, MPEG 2. I think my time is about to end. I'll take only additional 5 minutes, but then I am happy that I am covering now around 50 slides. Okay, out of 80, I could cover 50 slides. Good, no problem. MPEG 1, MPEG 2. MPEG 1 started in 1992, MPEG 2 1994. The whole bundle of, what is standard by the way, is bundle of techniques, algorithms plus syntax. Remember syntax, the way video streaming is going to actually physically happen. Video syntax, it's also part of the bundle. Okay, MPEG 1, MPEG 2 both are patented probably, and then they were not open access kind of technologies, standard technologies, but we adopted it. Okay, then 1992, target was CD-ROM in case of MPEG. Okay, the poor target. This is now obsolete, right? So the resolution was very restricted, 360 pixels, 288 lines, very restricted. Spatial resolution, 25 to 30 frames only. Come to MPEG 2. The end application which was targeted was HDTV. Good, no? So MPEG 2 naturally should be, because of compared with HDTV, it really took a long life. MPEG 2 is still prevalent. Okay, and it supported many resolutions. 720 by 576, 1440 by 1152, 60 fields per second. See, interlay scanning means fields per second. Okay, so all sorts, 120 fields, so therefore 60 frames per second. Everything was allowed over here, so flexibly. So spatial temporal resolutions both are allowed. Base layer, enhancement layer, poor customers, rich customers, everything was taken care of over there. What is the compression? Here it was 1.5 Mbps, and it is 4 Mbps. Okay, 4 to 20. So it is compatible to PAL, NTSC, TV standard. This was VHS. VHS was older video cassette recorded and all kind of stuff, right? So this is, forget about MPEG 1, but look at MPEG 2. Everything also you will find today relevant. Everything is relevant today also. Okay, to the PAL television standard which we adopted in India, CCRB plus PAL, everything to digital TV. So remember CCRB, black and white television, PAL, color television, but all analog. But MPEG 2 with this is all digital television, which automatically incorporates PAL with CCRB. Okay, and all the special temporal resolutions, they are all programmable. So MPEG 2, for a long it was existing, and MPEG 4, if the organizers, will you permit me to go for 5 more minutes? Dr. Anil?
Yes,
Sir, you can. Yes, sir. Yes, you.
Five more minutes are permissible from your
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No problem.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So MPEG 4 is drastically, it's a thought process revolution, I should describe it. Okay, it is thought process revolution. Drastically, the idea was changed. The paradigm shift, people say, it was a paradigm which was changed. Thought process was changed. Whereas MPEG 1.2 focus was compression, no? How could I reduce that chunk of GBps to Mbps? Okay, GB or gigabytes of data to megabytes of data. That was the focus. Okay, how to make it compatible to broadcast TV, HDTV and SDTV and so on. That was a major focus in MPEG 2. MPEG 3 never existed, by the way. Okay, MPEG 4, a thought process, innovation, revolution happened. It was thought process. What was the thought process? Application and services should become multimedia, and multimedia, the other name is interactivity. Multimedia means interactivity. Okay. Whereas HDTV, SDTV, what are the focus? Only audio video, no? Only audio video. But MPEG 4 envisioned that the next generation television at the end user, in the end user's home, will not be only television display. It will be internet enabled television. Okay. IPTV, it is a device which has gone on network, World Wide Web. Okay. And therefore, I should be able to play the games on it while I am going to watch the movie from the television. Okay, so see, multimedia, interactivity, all should be incorporated as a part of MPEG 4, and therefore I said paradigm shifted. It was all that the scene, the video scene, no, it's a scene, right? Group of pictures is a scene. That scene was converted into what is known as audio visual objects, AVOs. That was the concept over there. And it was all coding of audiovisual objects, which are naturally moving objects. Okay. And then once I say it's an object, then its concept, image processing concept which are applied to objects, they come into existence. All objects have got shape, all objects have color, all objects have textures. So all properties of objects like texture, surface, shape, color, I can deploy, I can exploit for compression. Okay. So I'm going to convert therefore scene into objects. All these objects are known as audio-visual objects. These are object-oriented coding. Object-oriented coding, object-oriented compression, which was not addressed. It was all pixel-based. MPEG 1.2 was pixel-based. Okay? Pixel was a codable entity. Here, codable entity is the object and not the pixel. So, paradigm shifted from pixel-focused codable entity to object-focused codable entity. That was a major kind of revolution. And once these objects are coded, I could intermix them with the animation. I could do that. I could retransmit. I could interactively play with my video monitor, the television display with me. Okay. So majority of that stuff was taken into account, and these objects were there. See what I have done. This was the scene. There is a speaker. There is a presenter. There is a presentation going on. There is the earth globe post there. There is a furniture, and the scene is split into person, 2D background, furniture, audio video presentation. Furniture is further split into globe, this earth globe, desk, then video, then voice. So everything is split. There is a segmentation. Okay, scene is segmented, so many stuff over there, and my focus is to encode with the basic. Person has different features, furniture has different feature, AV has different feature. So I could go for feature based coding. In case of MPEG 2, I had got pixel based coding. So features of the object were not taken into account. I can now go for object oriented coding. Naturally, focus was shifted from compression to better quality oriented compression and coding. Compression was a byproduct, coding was a major focus, and that too coding for objects. Okay, so MPEG 4 is a very revolutionary standard. It matches MPEG 4's revision 10, version 10 is today existing, and MPEG 4 by and large is now equivalent to H.264. H.264. Many new features have been added. 2D DCT. To your surprise, 2D DCT was recommended to be replaced by 2D DWT. Now it is recommended to be replaced by integer transform. Okay, for the sake of simplicity of computation. Many new recommendations are coming. So even though people feel that video compression is a rotten topic, there is zero potential for research over there. No, not at all. H.265 and MPEG-21 both go hands in hand, and there are so many kinds of new algorithms coming up. Optimization of those algorithms is still on the anvil, and this still becomes a high potential research area. Still, it is. And the majority of researchers who work in video compression, believe me, it is not a saturated area. Many recommendations at the thought process level have been done by standard developers for H.265 and for MPEG-21. They are parallelly going on, hands in hand. Okay. H.265 is also known as HEVC, high efficiency video coding. Okay. Sometimes audio video coding, advanced video coding. The names keep on changing, right? But then this standard happens to be a very enriched bundle of all such algorithmic techniques, very intelligent technique. Our role is to deploy them, try to implement them, write good programs for them. If it is open standard, upload your program, get them evaluated. If it is packaged bundle like a patented bundle like proprietary bundle like MPEG, then there is no other way than to deploy, than to use it, become the end customer, become happy. Okay, so quality kind of compressed video I will review at my place. Okay, that's the ultimate story of all MPEG 1, 2, 4 kind of standards. I could go up to 60th slide over here. That's true. There are 20 more slides. If at all required, I may share this presentation with the organizers and you can read it. It was anyway collated information, not my own. Some script is coming from my end, from generally compiled information over there. There is no hesitation in sharing my presentation with you. I understand that I hurriedly went through all my slides, but I have taken that privilege. I said it was informative but conceptual presentation. So I required your attention. Okay, and I appeal you to synchronize with my speed. I hope you synchronized. I hope communication channel helped me in synchronizing my voice with my text slides over here. And everything went hand in hand. You were synchronized with me. My voice was synchronized with my slide, and synchronization helped in getting greatest assimilation of information at your end. Thank you very much.
Hello, Supriya here, sir.
Yes.
Thank you very much, sir, for such a nice conceptual explanation of video compression and technique related to it. Now we will move towards the question answering session, sir. Questions from Dr. Sudeep is: what are objective measures metrics used for the visual video quality assessment? What
visual
are
video.
Yes.
Okay.
Visual video quality.
Okay, the quality of the reconstructed picture, video is ultimately, I said, it's a group of pictures. So quality of every picture which is getting decoded, okay, reproduced at the display, at the customer's end. This quality, if I want to quantify it, it will actually be PSNR. Signal to noise ratio, which is the same like image compression. And then because of 30 frames per second, etc., 25 frames per second. I will never explain jerkiness of video. So temporal resolution should not be quantified in terms of quality.
Okay, sir. Next question is: how to evaluate the performance of video summarization technique?
Video summarization technique.
Yes, sir.
I didn't get it now.
How to evaluate the performance of video summarization techniques?
Summarization term I'm not aware of.
Okay, sir. Next one. Question from Maheshwari ma'am: how to reduce distortion in videos by using HEVC compression technique?
Oh, HEVC. Then that I would have gone to my other presentation. There are so many new recommendations in HEVC. HEVC is high efficiency video coding. It is H.264 recommendation. And as I said you that the quality wise video reconstruction can be improved in HEVC recommendation, a set of algorithms over there. And one of the recommendations is de-blocking filters. Okay. Other recommendation is variable sizes of macro blocks. In up to MPEG-4, what was the MPEG-2, MPEG-4, what was happening? Macro block size was 16 by 16 for Y Luma component. Okay. Now variable macro block sizes are recommended over there. Then the variety of Q matrices are available. So many recommendations are there, but I will then need to go to some other part of my presentation. But
Okay, sir.
HVAC recommendations, they are well documented and you can share it.
Okay. Yes, sir. Dr. Yuvraj says that asking, can we apply non-linear sampling techniques at the encoder end itself to avoid compression process of signal? Can we
No,
apply?
avoid non-linear sampling.
Yes,
In
sir.
case of all video business, samples are basically uniform sampling. Okay. In case of HPVC coding, no, there is something known as pixel accuracy. There is something known as sub-pixel accuracy. But even sub-pixel also, let's say interpixel distances on the grid locations. There is an interpixel distance concept, pixel number 1, pixel number 2. But at the half pixel, at the half grid location also, I can find out the motion vector. This is known as sub-pale or sub-pixel accuracy. It is sub-sampling naturally. Okay, but I can't say it is non-linear sampling. It is still very uniform sampling, but the accuracies of motion vectors can be further finished, right? They can further refine. How is it? In terms of sub-pixel, 1/2 pixel accuracy, 1/4 pixel, quarter pale accuracy. This is something a notion. Okay, I can have integer pixel accuracy, 1 pixel, 2 pixel, etc. I can have half pixel, 1/4 pixel, but the sampling in terms of pixels remains uniform, linear only. It is not non-linear sampling.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Now, last question is, what is the difference between group of pictures and videos?
Oh, in the video streaming syntax is grammar. No, I said you. Syntax is some set of tools. In that set of tools, group of pictures is a term. It's a phrase which signifies one of the hierarchical levels of the syntax. What is group of pictures? I said you. It is a related group of pictures. So one fighting scene, 50 frames are related to fighting scene. Another set of 50 pictures related to emotional scenes. Then this 50 will be bundled as one group of pictures. Semantically related, one syntax, group of pictures. That is group of pictures. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Such a wonderful guidance. Now, I request to Dr. Shinde ma'am to give a vote of thanks.
Sutole sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello,
Yes.
am I audible, madam?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, sir. Deepali again here for the vote of thanks.
Yes.
Thank you, sir, Sudhamani sir, for the information you have shared with us related to video coding, encoding, video compression, decompression, and different processes. Your years of research, your user interface, and your ability to present the subject in a such a in our group's history, sir. The subject encouraging me, and I plan to learn to more this domain of signal, image, and video processing, sir. And I think, like me, others also plan to learn more in this domain, sir. Your devoted session is really helpful to the researchers and the new learners in this domain, sir. We are grateful for the time and effort you took to share your knowledge and experiences with us in this FDP, sir. On behalf of Electronics and Telecommunication Department of Government College, thank you for your contribution and thank you for the session, sir. Thank you very much.
सुतोले सर, तुम्हाला थांबायचं बरं का?
100